Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Financial Fraud Fridays. Today, Kerrina and I will be talking about our new IRS Commissioner, Billy Long. For those of you who do not know, my name is Nike Togba. I am the owner of Togba and Associates, a tax planning and advisory firm focused on entrepreneurs and professionals with a personalized approach.
And
This
I
is my
am
good
Kerrina
colleague,
O'Connor.
Karina. Go for it,
I'm
Karina.
Kerrina O'Connor, and the founder and owner of Cake Financial, and I'm here to help millennial business owners with tax problems through strategy, not shame. So we're a South Florida-based company, and we help people nationwide. We're completely virtual, and we can help you anywhere you are. So
Okay.
today we're going to talk about the potential fraud concerns from our new IRS commissioner on this Financial Fraud Friday. So I'm going to have Nikkei take it back up.
Okay. Well, for you guys, Billy Long is our new IRS commissioner. He was sworn in on June 16th, 2025. He will be the commissioner, or will potentially will be the commissioner until November 12th of 2027. Okay, he's the 51st commissioner. A little history on Billy Long. Well, Billy Long is an auctioneer. Okay, that's what he's most known for, is being an auctioneer. So he was not himself an entrepreneur that I know of, right? But I don't
Not the
know.
last one.
He was a member of Congress. He served in Congress. He served from 2011 to 2023. He's for the state of Missouri. There's the 7th Congressional District. He has served on the Committee on Energy and Commerce, the committee and the Republican Steering Committee. But he's not had any tax or any law or any accounting experience. He's not served on any finance committees or assisted in writing any tax laws. Okay, but what he has done, and what he is known for, is for co-sponsoring bills to repeal the income tax and to abolish the IRS. So this is just a little background information on Billy Long. Okay, so that. This is our new IRS commissioner, and so. Karina and I wanted to kind of, well, not only the fact that he's the commissioner, but we kind of feel like there's a huge conflict. I do anyway, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak for myself. I feel like there's a huge conflict of interest here, um, because there were a couple of concerns that were expressed during his confirmation hearing that I felt, and we both felt were, these are valid concerns, okay? And to name those, and we'll touch on a few of those concerns. He promoted the ERC credit, okay? He worked with companies who really pushed and helped to fan the flame of individual, of companies signing up for the ERC credit. He also promoted a credit, the tribal tax credit, I think it was called, right? Um, he promoted that credit. And as you'll see, this is a non-existent credit at that, okay? So the questions we have are there are many questions, but
Yes.
what now is your intent? You're the head of an organization that you wanted to abolish at one point. So now
Right.
what?
Yeah. What is the reason? What is the reason that you now, before it was abolish, abolish, abolish. Now it's, oh, well, now that I'm working for it, you know what I'm saying? And now I want to make sure that I do everything I can to make sure that the IRS thrives. It's very contradictory. So it's like, what's going on? Why are you joining? Why now? And how does your involvement with the ERTC credits and the fraudulent things that happen there, and the tax tribal credits and the fraudulence that happens there, what is that going to look like while you're in the IRS and you are the head of the IRS now?
There's that. Well, let's touch on these credits,
Okay.
because there's another, and now that you bring that up, there was Senator Warren's issue, which
Mm.
was the law on, okay, are you So she mentioned section 7217, which is a federal law which prohibits the executive branch from influence over taxpayer audits and other investigations. So I'm going to put a pin in that. But let's go back to these credits. We mentioned the tribal tax credit. Okay,
Yes.
Billy Long was a promoter for a credit that they called the tribal tax credit. But again, the gag was that this credit is non-existent. It's not a real credit.
Right. And
You're
just to
pushing a credit that's not
explain
real.
what it was, or how they promoted it, and it was specifically White River and White River Energy and Capital Edge. They were the ones that were promoting like this credit. Oh yeah, come do this credit. And then Billy Long was the one referring people out to these companies. So it was like
Okay,
the
okay.
tribal credits is basically a Native American federal income tax credit that they promoted to investors to reduce their tax liability.
Okay.
Especially, you reduce your tax liability, you get your you try to pay the least amount of taxes, right? And they were saying that these credits were backed by tribes and federal law, hence the name tribal tax credit. And then, as the IRS has said, and we know, this is not a real credit. So they got money on credits that do not exist from people who paid them.
So to clarify, they received money. So my apologies,
Remember, White Claws all over the
White
country.
River, right? Because let's clarify that. White River received money, right? And the communication was, hey, you give us this money, you can use this as a credit reduction on your tax liability on your taxes.
Right.
Billy Long was a funnel, so he would refer companies
Right.
to, to White River, and
Right.
White River would then say, oh, well, you could get a credit, whatever, whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And then
These are
get
not real credits,
right. And then
right?
he was the
This is not
referral.
a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this draws back to what makes you qualified. Here's, you weren't even, you didn't even, there was no research. You're just sending people here without even vetting whether or not, you didn't even know if it was a real credit.
Didn't even know. Didn't
And
care.
when
I
the
was
question
scared
was
to do it.
asked, what did he say?
Oh, he said that it was a only referral based work. He had no direct interactions with the White River execs. He believed that these credits were real and advised the clients to seek licensed professionals. So that was
Uh,
his response.
way to pass the buck. Way to pass the buck. Okay, okay. And he
Basically,
got paid 65K for those referrals. He got paid for that.
and
Okay.
White Claw, sorry, White Claw,
White
White
River.
River, like White River, literally, it was over $100,000 that they donated to his campaign. So in addition to him getting referral
Oh, for
credits of
getting paid.
5,000 for the ERTC and the tribal tax credits, um, he was also like his campaign benefited from this company. So
So
when
they donated to his campaign, basically, is what you're saying.
right, they donated to
Okay.
his
Okay.
campaign.
Okay. Right. So
Yes.
there you go. That's a valid question. Like, sir, what makes you qualified to be commissioner? Okay. Um, the second concern that was brought up was his promotion of the ERC credit. And here's the thing, not against I wasn't against I'm not against promotion of the credit. But and you guys are familiar. There was with COVID and everything that happened, um, the ERC was offered to businesses as an incentive to retain
Mhm.
employees,
Right.
right? So as a business, I own my business, but I am not making as much income as I used to. But I do not want to fire my employees. I
Right.
want to make, I'm making a genuine effort to keep them on payroll, to
Mhm.
keep food in their mouths and in the
And
mouths
remember,
of
this
their
was during
families.
times of COVID. This was COVID time. Like, remember, like the thought process everyone was talking. Go ahead, Nikki. Sorry.
Exactly. No, no problem. And so, this
Yeah.
credit was offered. And if you guys can remember, honey, you could not listen to NBC. You could, excuse, and not to bring them into it, but you couldn't listen to a political. For me, you couldn't listen to a political station. You could not, even on the radio, just general radio. You're listening to YouTube.
Yeah.
People were really pushing this credit. They were really pushing it. Oh, you could, it's so much so that our clients were
Yeah.
asking, for I'm hearing about this credit. I'm hearing about this credit,
Right. How do I
right?
qualify for this credit?
How do I qualify for this credit? He assisted in fanning those flames. Now I'm not saying that he was responsible himself, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But you did assist in pushing companies towards, I'd say, you assisted in fanning these flames because people did not have all of the necessary information. And so there were a lot of companies that kind of just came out of nowhere who were fraudulently filing for this credit on behalf of individuals who knew they were fraudulently filing and on behalf of individuals who genuinely felt like they may have been eligible.
Yeah, that's true. And like you said, Nikki, like it was like this is a legitimate credit. It's not like, it's not like the tribal credit that's not real. That doesn't exist. But this ERTC, the employee retention credit, is a legitimate credit. The problem is that the fraud. People are claiming things, or companies are claiming it on behalf of other companies, saying you have employees when you do not. And so many people have got caught up into this thing, and years they got the money, the check has cleared, the IRS gave them the credit for it. They gave them back money for this retention credit. But what's happening now is they're saying, hey, your records don't match. Where are the W-2s for this person?
The Social Security
So
Administration wants to know where's the.
W-2s and a W-3s. Because you said you paid these employees, you're filing these 941s because on that particular form, you don't have to put a social or a name. You can just put the number and the amount you paid.
That's right. That's right. You didn't have to actually list out the employees. It was just the
Right.
summary information.
So that's how people committed the
Yeah.
fraud. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you paid 20, 20 employees,
Or,
$50,000 a quarter.
right? Right?
Your revenue is not
So
even $50,000 a quarter. So, it just doesn't it makes sense. So the IRS is checking, and the Social Security Administration, they're all checking their documentation, and hey, something
they don't
doesn't match.
match.
And it happens years later, it doesn't match.
It doesn't match.
And I
Yeah.
even gave people an out. I don't know if you want to talk about that, okay.
Oh, yeah. No, 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 no. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the out that I was talking about, it was just, again, I like bringing it back to why it is very important for you if you are a business owner to invest, having an accountant,
Yes.
having a tax professional on your team. Not somebody you just speak to in, March when it's time to, if you're S corp to file your tax return, or April or whatever when it's time to file.
Mhm.
Someone on your team you can ask questions, or that you can send out to do the grunt work, the research.
Right.
Am I eligible? Can I do this? Can
Mhm.
I do that? It is, having a tax professional is an investment. Having an accountant is an investment, because in this case, even with the ERC, they the IRS provided an out.
Yeah.
Okay, and that out was, if you got caught up, you
Right.
didn't mean to. You thought that you could file for ERC. Somebody told you you were eligible. You gave your information to some company. They filed it. You got back X amount of dollars. And now you're finding out, wait, whoa, 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 the IRS is saying there's a lot of fraud. Am I one of those people? Did I fraudulently file? The IRS gave an out. There was a time frame where they said, hey, look, if you think you got these credits and you were ineligible, you can send us back, girl, 80%. They didn't even say send us back 100% of the money. They said 80. You could send us back 80. Keep 20. Keep the 20. We just gonna call it even. And send us back 80%. Or they didn't even say, like, even if they had spent it, they said, just tell us that you did. And then we'll put you on and you can start paying it back. Right? And that would have assisted in keeping you out of the fray. Here's the benefit of a tax professional. Now, if you had a tax professional up front, if you had an accountant up front, you wouldn't have been there, because I had people asking me, and I was like, no, that's not for you.
Right.
It's not yours.
That's not you. You don't have employees.
Not for you.
You have independent contractors. Those are not employees. Or if you do have employees, those employees cannot be related to you. It can't be you and your brothers and sisters and your family. It has to be outside for you to qualify. But having that conversation with someone who knows what they're doing to let you know, hey, this is anything else. If anyone else tells you any differently, it's fraudulent. Don't do that.
Exactly.
And
so
back to Billy Long now. Nikkei, I think you were saying how the victims of the fraudulent tax credits, they trusted him because they said he was a congressman. Is that correct?
Right. Oh yeah, that was their response.
Yeah.
That was their response. Well, we thought that we could do this because as a congressman, he referred it. He's pushing it.
Right.
So why would he push it if it's not real? This is a congressman.
Right.
So he stood on his. That's the other thing. It's like his. I don't know if we call it clout. His standing. Yeah. We're saying this is a congressman. Why would a congressman push something that that doesn't exist, that is fraudulent? Why but it's fraudulent, and now what? You just gave up your money. That's that's a whole nother. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then he ends up just passing the buck. Oh, I thought it was real. Yeah, that's what he said. He said, I thought it was real.
Yeah, I thought it was real, but the travel credits, and then even to seek licensed professional. Seek a licensed professional. I didn't have any direct interaction with White River. I was just referring them out and getting money, basically. I didn't care how they got it. I mean, basically, that's in a nutshell how it went. So,
I think these are valid, and I don't know the man. I don't know the man, but I am, if we're just going to base this on character, forget character. Let's just base it on professionalism and integrity, and let's just base it on character, integrity. Sir, I can't trust you as IRS Commissioner. Sorry, you know what I mean? Like, you aren't proven.
Yeah.
You aren't proven. The other thing is, like you said, like we noted, he tried to abolish the IRS at one point. How are you now commissioner of an organization that it was your intention at one point to abolish, to get rid of, right? So that to me is suspicious, because now you're at the head of the wheel. Is your intention to crash this car?
Right.
Is your intention to, or have you recognized that it is a tool that you can use to your advantage?
That's That's an interesting one right there. That's an interesting one right there.
right? Because are you about to weaponize the
Mm.
because this whole thing with the with Harvard
Oh yes.
tried to take away their, you know, their nonprofit
Status.
status.
Yep.
Are you gonna, so if you don't agree with me, now that I'm head, am I gonna weaponize the IRS? Now it's a weapon,
That's a
right? Now I can audit who I want to audit. Now I can threaten
choose
you
and refuse.
in a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah, he has the power to do it under an organization that should be legally bound to get revenue and AR for the company or for the organization for the country, but using it to your
Yeah,
advantage instead. That could be
yeah.
a possibility. Yeah, very interesting.
You know, and I don't know, and like and I mentioned Senator Warren was quoting the Internal Revenue Code. She was quoting Section 7217, which says that the executive branch, it is unlawful for the executive branch to influence the IRS to audit, you know, to
Mhm.
influence an audit or any other type of investigation. But that's exactly what we see happening.
And here's
That's
another
what's happening.
conflict. This is the other conflict as we're talking about not being like not traditionally in being in tax, not understanding how tax works, not understanding what credit is real or not, and then being in nominated by our current president, which is the executive branch. You know what I'm saying? Does will he now be able to feel like, oh, okay, since he nominated me, I'm going to just do whatever he says, even if it goes against.
I'm not, I'm, well, history, the past couple of months have shown me that the answer to that question is yes.
Right.
The answer to that question is yes. I'm gonna go for it
Yeah.
because, you know, and when I have these conversations in private, I always say, I say it's because what are you gonna do about it?
Oh,
What are you
that's
gonna do about it?
that's the problem.
What are you
Actually,
gonna do about it?
that's the
Because
problem.
I think that's what's being said.
Yeah.
You're just gonna whine about it. You're gonna forgive me. And this particular, this is my personal opinion. We're gonna talk about it. Everybody's gonna bat it back and forth. But what are you really gonna do about it?
Mm.
Because I'm commissioner now.
And this is where we as people we need to understand what's going on. Like we're having this conversation to help you be aware because all of this affects you. Like the IRS collects money from you every 2 weeks if you're on a biweekly payroll. Like you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's not just
Exactly.
we think about it.
Exactly.
We think about taxes only once a year, but it's happening
It's happening
every
every
time.
time you get,
Every time you
honey,
get
it's happening every time you go to work. You get taxed first.
you
You
get taxed.
do. Every time
Yes,
you clock in, you
exactly.
are being taxed first
Exactly.
and foremost.
Exactly.
Before business, you are getting, I mean, aside from going outside
Yeah.
buying something, you're paying the sales tax or whatever, whatnot, but that's state, right?
Right.
That's state revenue.
Hmm.
But as far as federal revenue is concerned in the IRS, you're getting taxed first,
Right. Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So,
So you need to
I mean,
understand
it
who's running it, what's going on, the layoffs that are happening. How is that affecting you personally? Like, how can you get a call when you need to call the IRS? Who's going to be answering the phone? How long of a wait time, especially during high peak times, will it now be? And then
exactly,
even one of the
exactly.
things that he wants to do and said was he wanted to transform the IRS culture. I don't know what that means, but that
I was gonna say that
I don't
because
know
now,
what
yeah. So now what is
that
his, because every
what's the
IRS
culture.
commissioner has set an agenda. And
Yep.
so what Kerrina is saying is he's saying his agenda is what exactly?
Transform the IRS culture to be taxpayer and employee friendly, modernize IT and systems, improve customer service and fairness, guard against politicization, following ethics guidance, and stabilize and retain workforce. However, the problem is that All of those things take money that they just snatched away from them. One, two, they got rid of at least like what 15 to 20% of the workforce, or maybe right now a good chunk of the workforce is gone. These days, like who wants to work for the IRS? Like back in the day, like, oh yeah, federal job, oh I'm gonna take it. Now, for the people coming out of college and the kids and whomever else, those who are leaving and retiring, they're gone. They're trying to speed up the process. Who wants to work for the IRS now with everything that happened this
Um,
last season? So how are they going
uh,
to retain the workforce and stabilize the workforce when the workforce let them go during the height of tax season this year?
uh,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
really, modernization in IT. I agree with that completely, but that takes money. The IRS systems do not talk to each other.
Right.
They like
Exactly. Yeah, you got.
like I've gone
We
to the
don't
IRS
handle that in
conference.
this department.
They
We
don't
got to
know.
transfer you to it.
Then
Wait
they
a
correct you.
minute. I've been on
Yeah,
the phone
and
for
then you
two
get hung
hours
up on.
already.
Then you get hung up on. And then they were like,
Like
"Oh, I
what?
don't know. We don't do that." And they do.
Right? It takes,
So,
because I mean, and I'm okay with the fact that the IRS works on snail mail and we still have to fax stuff in, and I'm okay with that. I'm old school. I am okay with that, and I feel like I know you're not. I know you are all into technology, but
yes.
I'm like so serious about my, I'm just like my info, dude. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that I'm old school. That's just me. I got an old soul, old school. So I understand the technology thing, but there's always a pro and a con.
Yes.
Yes, snail mail is slow. Yes, faxing over information can be inconvenient, but it provides a higher level of security, right?
Mm.
Because taxpayers need to know the IRS is not going to call you. The IRS is not sending
That's,
you an email. The
that's
IRS only communicates through the mail.
the
That
mail.
is it. If you
That's
got
it.
an email, if you got a text message, if you got a call, that was not somebody not. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Did you get a letter?
Even when they
I
do
need
that,
physical proof.
yeah, and even if they do an audit, like a field audit and a phone call, they send you a letter saying, "Hey, on this day, give or take, 'cause there's some field audits. I think they stopped doing the surprise field audits, but
Okay.
like for the most part, they send you a letter, and even before
Right.
you even get to that point, they're sending you a letter every step of the way. Letter here. On this day, we will be contacting you. On this day, you owe this amount of money. On this day, you
Yeah.
this inquiry. Like it is a letter.
It's a letter, and yeah, and everything is basically drawn out. So when he says, um, you know, oh yeah, he says, I'm anxious to develop. Okay, so
Yeah.
that he's going to make a more taxpayer-friendly agency. I
Yes.
don't, you don't, that does not, the words and the actions are not aligning.
Yeah.
Your
It's
words and your actions do not align
yeah. What does that
because
mean? What does that mean?
a taxpayer, okay, yeah, because how do you, a taxpayer friendly environment? Okay, as a taxpayer, if I were already in the process of an audit,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've been fighting back, I've been going back and forth now for 6 months. I was, I'm at the almost end of my audit. I'm down to the wire. We think we've come to an agreement. We think we come to a final number. We think we and now the agent I was working with has been fired.
Yeah.
Now you just
That
sent
literally
me back
happened.
to
That literally
exactly.
happened. It happened to me. Like,
It
and
happened to
we were on
you.
the last cuss. Like, we were closing it out. And I was like, we called in the week. And what's crazy is that they had him on, they had let me not say his name. They had that revenue officer do training for 2 weeks. Cool. He came back. We spoke. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and finish this off for my client, whatever, whatever. And I'm waiting for his call back to finalize the final payment plan. I didn't hear anything. Okay, let me call. Somebody else answers and let me know, hey, this person was gone due to the layoff.
And so what happens? Do you have to start over?
I'm in limbo. So I'm in limbo. Like,
Exactly.
so that revenue officer is gone, and then the other revenue officers that are there, they already have their own
They
caseload.
have cases.
They
So
already
you're
have
now
their own
back at the
caseload.
back of the line.
Yep. And the back of the line had to wait. I think it was about 2 months or so for a new revenue officer who did not know anything of what's going
Who
on.
now has to
Catch them up,
research.
have to catch them up, and say, "Hey, we were this close to being done. This is where we are." Like,
That sounds real friendly. That
it's
sounds that sounds friendly. Sounds so friendly. Sounds pleasant. Sounds
during
like
the
a
tax season. I think it was
I
maybe
right. It was
in
like,
April or
yeah.
so. I
Hmm.
like
Sounds so friendly. So
so
friendly. But ultimately this comes down to we are as with all of this, it seems like every day there's a new turn. We're
yeah,
all on wait and see.
yeah,
We're all on wait and see. You know, the big beautiful bill. What are they? Tomorrow, I think, or sometime this week, it's
being
going to be
paid.
finalized,
Mm.
right? So there's that. So we're all on wait and see mode, but we're not waiting to see who the IRS commissioner is. He has been confirmed. He's at the wheel. He is captain of the ship. And we as tax professionals are on wait and see. Is what's about to happen, um it's new territory because before there was a flow. We knew, what the flow was.
Yes.
Everyone followed the rules of engagement. Everybody knew what the rules of engagement was. No matter who the new commissioner was, the rules of engagement never changed. Now the rules of engagement look like they're going to sound like they're going to change to
Yeah,
me.
it might for sure. And we're just waiting and trying to figure out. And once we figure out and we know, we'll let you guys know. But it's
We'll
just
let you
constant,
guys know.
constant change and constant kind of having. And this is what Nikkei was saying earlier on. It's important to have your tax professional with you, because on an average, most people are not paying attention to this. They're not paying attention to taxes until January to April. We have to pay attention to every little thing that's happening because it's going to affect us in January or April or before that. It affects you year round. So you
Right.
tap into your tax professional and say, "Hey, what's going on? What's happening? Are you able to explain this? If another
Or
if another credit comes up, like what's
yeah,
this
or
credit?"
or if you've got which you should, again, if you've chosen the correct investment,
Right.
okay? If you've chosen the video, or I don't know, I'm being funny, right? If you've chosen the correct investment, that individual, that tax preparer, that accountant, once something shows up on their radar and they recognize that it could affect you
Right.
as their client, they will let you know. Hey, look, this is something you need to take a look, to look out for. It's coming down the pipe. It looks like it may affect you. Here's what you need to know.
Yeah,
Here's what you need to know. So.
agree.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and close out from here. I think, we've kind of summarized most of this. If anything huge pops up, we'll try to have a conversation about it or at least post about it. I encourage you to follow each of us. Our Instagram handles are below. You can follow Kerrina at Cake Financial. You can follow me at Togba and Associates on Instagram and other platforms. Um, we are again available to assist you. If you have any questions, if you are in need of assistance, whether that be assistance with back taxes, please feel free to reach out. Kerrina, if you are a business owner in search of advisory services, feel free to reach out to myself. We are here and available to help you. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us for this little bit of time. This is something we're both very passionate about, especially the fraud aspect of it. And so we look forward to, consistently doing this. So we're looking to be here
Yes.
every second Friday. Okay, so every other Friday on a bi-weekly basis, we'd like to have this financial fraud Friday, and have this conversation with you, and encourage you to join us and ask your questions, even if it's after the fact. Okay.
Yes, let us know in the comments if you have any
Mhm.
questions, anything that you've heard about fraudulent related or anything tax related that you want us to talk about. Put it in the comments. We'll talk.
Yeah, yes, we will. We will talk. Okay. So, yeah, we want you guys to have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday. And have a great weekend. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.